A long time ago, there was a king and a queen who longed to have a child. One day, when the queen was taking a bath in the bath, a frog crawled out of the water and said to her, "Your wish will come true. Within a year you will give birth to a daughter." The frog's words came true, and the queen gave birth to a lovely princess. The king was very happy and held a grand celebration banquet. He invited many people, including 12 witches. In fact, there were 13 witches and wizards in the country, but the king only had 12 gold plates to entertain them. So, he invited one less. At the banquet, each witch gave the child a beautiful blessing. One wished her beauty, one wished her kindness, one wished her rich. When the 11th witch finished her blessings, the one who did not, the invited wizard, barged in. Because she was not provoked, she held a grudge and said loudly, "You all look down on me, and I want revenge on the princess. I curse the princess to be stabbed to death by a spindle when she turns 15. After that, she walked away. People present were shocked. At this time, the 12th witch, who had not had time to offer her blessing, hurriedly stepped forward, but she could not remove the curse. She could only alleviate it, so she said, "Don't worry, everyone. The princess will not be stabbed to death by the spindle. Just it will sleep for 100 years. In order to save his beloved daughter from misfortune, the king ordered that all the spindles in the country be burned. The princess grew up day by day, and the blessings given to her by the witches and wizards came true one by one. She was beautiful and elegant, gentle and sensible, and very lovable. As a result, everyone gradually forgot about the terrible curse. One day, when the princess was 15, the king and queen went out. The princess ran around the palace alone and finally came to an ancient bell tower. She climbed up the narrow spiral staircase to the bell tower and saw a small door with a golden key inserted in it. When she turned the golden key, the door popped open, and she saw an old woman sitting inside, spinning thread with a spindle. The princess walked up and asked curiously, "Hello, old lady. What are you doing?" "Spinning," the old woman said slowly. "This little thing is so fun to spin." As she said this, the princess stretched out her hand to dip the spindle, wanting to try it too. But as soon as her hand touched the spindle, the curse came true, and the spindle pierced her finger. The princess fell down on the bed next to her and fell into a deep sleep. This deep sleep quickly spread throughout the palace. The king and the queen fell asleep after returning from the outside. All the people in the palace also fell asleep. The horses in the stables, the dogs and pigeons in the yard fell asleep. Even the stove, the flame burning in the furnace, also fell asleep quietly. Soon, a large hedge of thorns grew around the palace. Year after year, they grew taller and denser, and finally surrounded the entire palace so tightly that even the roof and chimney were no longer visible. Since then, the legend of Sleeping Beauty has been circulating in this country, and Sleeping Beauty is the sleeping princess. Later, princes often wanted to enter the palace through the thorn bushes, but they were either entangled in the thorns or tripped by the bushes, unable to escape, and eventually died in pain. Many years passed, and one day, another prince set foot on this land. After hearing the legend of Sleeping Beauty, he decided to see the beautiful princess with his own eyes. A kind-hearted old man advised him not to die in vain, but the prince said firmly, "None of this scares me. I must find the sleeping princess." On this day, Sleeping Beauty happened to have slept for a full 100 years. When the prince came to the hedgerow, big flowers bloomed in the jungle, and the entangled thorn branches separated automatically, making way for the prince. After he walked over, the hedge closed again behind him. After entering the palace, the prince found that everything was asleep. He looked around the palace for the sleeping princess. Everywhere was eerily quiet, and even his own breathing could be heard clearly. Finally, the prince came to the ancient bell tower and opened the door of the small room where the princess was. The princess was sleeping soundly. She was so beautiful that he was so stunned that he couldn't help but lean down and kiss her. At this time, the princess opened her eyes and woke up. She saw how handsome the prince in front of her was, and couldn't help but stare at him, feeling a sense of happiness in her heart. The prince hugged the princess and walked out of the bell tower. At this moment, the king and queen also woke up. Everyone in the palace woke up, and the whole castle regained its former vitality. Soon the prince and princess held a grand wedding, and they lived happily ever after.